Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Be bold, be brave, be extraordinary, be vulnerable, be real, be curious, be true, be you. Welcome to Trusting Your Gut with world-class energy intuitive Catherine McIntosh, a show designed to awaken you to enjoy the process of evolving, have fun along the way, and learn to listen to those silent in-between moments. You are the expert of your own life, and nobody knows more about the next steps to take in your journey than you. So please, listen to your gut and discover what's waiting for you to explore. Here is your host, Catherine McIntosh.
All right, my magical friends, I am so excited. We have the show. We've been doing it almost a year. I should say I've been doing it almost a year with the producers of Om Times, which I'm so grateful for. And we have a new time and a new day that we're going to be going live. So every Wednesday, you can join us 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so also, let's see, so that would be 8 p.m. Central European Time. So a lot of people in Europe that I've worked with over the years and really all over the world. I feel so lucky. And so today's show, right? It's a new year. It's a new you. It's a new possibility. And, you know, it's that time of the year where some people like to set resolutions. And I've kind of been in this mode for the last several years around this time of the year where I'm like, it's not about a resolution, it's about a revolution. It's about who am I going to become? What am I going to evolve into? And oftentimes, when we're seeking resolutions, we're trying to look at what we need to get rid of. And in evolution and the concept of evolving, which for me is becoming a better version of yourself every day, right? That concept of evolving into the greatest version of yourself today, not tomorrow, today, the greatest version of having the best life you can have today, right? That is where you take what is working, you take your core values, you take the feelings that you want to experience this year, and then you add, right? And you look for what can I do to add to my life? And so it's that time of the year where a lot of people, they might reevaluate their life, they might reevaluate their relationships, their meaning, their core values, what's important to them, what's no longer important to them. They might set sights on new dreams, but it's also that time of the year where people really look at their health. And a lot of people go, okay, this is the year I'm going to lose 5 pounds, or this is the year I'm going to, commit to a gym membership. And none of that is wrong. It's all great to look at how can we better ourselves every day? How can we improve? And without our health, we have nothing. And so today's topic is the key to changing your body is dot dot dot, right? Because for most people who struggle with their body, who struggle with their weight, it tends to be a mystery as to what the heck is the key to changing my body, because it doesn't seem to change long term. And I'm going to talk about some concepts that might be a little bit different than what you've ever heard before. So I am an intuitive consultant. I am fortunate enough to work with people all over the world from all walks of life, whether it's in person because they fly to me and see me in Aspen, or we get on Zoom, or we get on the phone and we do these kind of magical experiences. And I just got off of a session, and they said to me, I knew that this would change my life, but I had no idea how deep it would go. And, it's one of my favorite things to do is meet with someone and invite them to open a door to a possibility they've never considered before. Because the truth is that if you have been attempting to change something in your life, like your body weight, like your health, like your chronic fatigue, or an immune disorder or immune deficiency, or even trying to change the chronic migraines or chronic pain in your body, it doesn't change by addressing the pain. You have to address what's underneath it. And so when it comes to our health is our most valuable resource, right? I think the two most valuable resources in the world are our time, because you can never get it back, and our health. And what I love about the body and the systems of the body, I kind of am a body junkie, is that the body is comprised of 60 to 76% water, which means that when you communicate to the water molecules in the cells of your body, you are inviting a different vibration, a different outcome, a different possibility in your health journey. And so I have been fortunate enough to both guide and witness people having miraculous health transformations, right? So whether it's stage 4 cancer or an autoimmune disorder or Parkinson's or MS, I'm always curious about, okay, let's not address the symptom, right? Which is the health issue. Let's address what we can't see that might be causing the issue, right? And I think that's true for anything in our lives, right? We want to get to the root of what is causing the dis-ease or the disorder or the discomfort. And I'm going to talk today about a few concepts that might go over your head at first, but hopefully over time, please re-listen to this episode. It will make more sense to you. And so I'll give an example. I have been on my own health journey, sort of figured out, struggled with my weight from the ages of 15 to 37. At 37, when I got pregnant with my son, decided that I was going to do it different because I didn't want to pass on my disorder of my dysmorphia with my own body, of my sort of hatred of my own body, and of my like discomfort in my own skin. I didn't want to pass it on to the being in my belly. I didn't know if it was a girl or a boy, right? I didn't know until he was born, right? We chose not to do it. Just kind of had a natural birth, had a natural pregnancy, and so when my son was born, actually when I was pregnant, I made this choice of like, I'm going to do this different because I do not want to pass my disorder on to my son. And so when I've been working with people all over the world, what I tend to find is if you have a chronic condition that no matter what you've done to solve it, whether it's Western medicine or meditation or alternative means or health practitioners or energy healers or acupuncture, massage, whatever you've tried to do to heal your chronic condition that you haven't been able to heal, it's probably because you're not addressing the root cause. And so what I believe is happening when you have something you haven't been able to change is you are carrying an energy that was never yours to carry in the first place. And that might not make sense to some of you. So I'll try and talk it out a little bit and see where we can get. And as always, we do take live callers. So if you want more information, if you'd like to interact with us in the chat, please feel free to comment. But what I've discovered is most of us come into this lifetime with issues that were never ours to begin with. And then we make them ours. We put a label on it. We put an identity to it. We then identify ourselves as having a problem or an issue or something that we constantly and chronically need to solve. And so you want to look at, what is my identity with my health? What is my identity? Do I have an identity with my health that I am in chronic problem solving mode? Do I have an identity that I'm not good enough? Like my identity with myself was I'm fat and ugly. And if you can see me, that isn't true, right? It's not true. But yet my identity for 20 plus years was, I believed it was true. And so what I was doing was sending the 60 to 76% of water in my body, the water molecules, I was sending them an energetic message that I was not enough, that I was fat and ugly, that I had a problem. And so guess what? I kept creating a problem. And then I kept looking to try to solve that problem through the problem, but it never solved the problem. What solved the problem was not just letting go of an identity that I was fat and ugly, but I also had to replace that identity with something totally different. And that identity became, what would it be like to feel so connected to my body that I fall in love with it every day? What would it be like to no longer identify as having a problem with my body? And what the truth was is that I, at 15 years old, had sort of an incident with someone in my life who I was extremely close to who passed. And in her passing, it was my grandmother. And I know this might sound totally wacky to some people, but when I share my story, it makes sense to a lot of people. She then came into my body on my 15th birthday. And that is when I began having an identity crisis with my body. And so trying to change my diet didn't change the problem. Trying to change my workout habits didn't change the problem, because the truth was, at 15 years old, I was 126 pounds. I had almost no body fat for a female, right? I was extremely athletic. I could eat whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and I had zero self-esteem issues with my body. I didn't even think about it. It was like, this thing works well. I'm going to keep doing it. But on my 15th birthday, that all changed, and I started having chronic health issues. I started having chronic mood swings, and I started literally picking every inch of my body apart. And so, for those of you that are struggling, in my case, I was carrying an energy, my grandmother's body, her dis-ease that she died with. I was carrying that in my body. And no matter what I did on the outside health habits to try to change my body, to try to get my head okay with the idea and the identity that I wasn't fat and ugly, that something wasn't wrong with me, as long as I was trying to solve it from outside solutions instead of inside solutions, I could never solve the problem. And so the key to transforming your body isn't to just do the actions. Yes, eating healthy is a good thing, right? Eliminating toxic things from your sort of daily habits, it's a good thing, right? Being health sort of enthused is a good thing. Wanting to make sure your body can live as long as you would like it to is a good thing. Making sure that you are navigating the issues or diseases or maladies of your physical body and your mental body, it's a good thing, right? But just addressing the external will never permanently solve the problem that you feel like you have. And so I'm going to give you an example from this last week. So I have, you know, I basically kind of solved my body issues for 10 years. And then a couple years ago, hit menopause. And all of a sudden, woke up one day with 15 extra pounds around my belly. I was depressed. I was lethargic. I had lost my joy of living. I was hormonal. I was like breaking out like crazy. I was in chronic mood swings to the point where my son, who's now 11, so at the time he would have been 9 and 10, he was like, "Mom, I think something isn't okay with you." And that's where it like hit me. And I was like, I got to change this. And so when I hit menopause and I'd had the extra weight, I went to focus on, what do I need to do to lose the weight? What do I need to do to get my health back? What do I need to do to stop these panic attacks and anxiety and chronic depression and all these weird symptoms that was not familiar to me and not a part of my daily life. I mean, I sort of facilitate, classes and clients around the world, and to struggle in my own world was a very humbling experience, to the point where I was like, maybe I should give up what I do for a living. Maybe I'm not meant to do this. And I had to really like search inside of myself. So I had to go underneath the surface. And so I did solve a lot of the issues. And as long as I do certain things for my mental health, right? The key to transforming your body most of the time is inside your mind. And it's also inside anything that you are carrying energetically in your DNA or in your mental sort of world, energetically, that isn't yours. And so I have been in this health sort of like increase in my life because I figured out what solved my issues. And I'll share some of those things the second half of the show. And so I've been on this upswing. Well, in the last week, I started to struggle again with my body. My face started breaking out. I started to judge my body. I started eating in a way that didn't serve me, and I knew it. And I couldn't stop. And I was like, okay, I'm going to change my eating habits. Well, that never worked for me personally. And I don't know about you, especially if you struggle with your body image, telling yourself that you're going to eat healthy doesn't really work long term. And so it was just a couple days ago, I had this aha, and I was like, oh, the reason I'm struggling and the reason I'm wanting to control my food intake is because I have not been controlling my mental world. I haven't been doing the sort of mental and energetic and physical exercises that help lower my cortisol, that help calm my nervous system, that help balance my hormones. I stopped doing those a few weeks ago. I got really busy with life and work and everything. And I kind of was like, oh, well, I'm in a good space. Well, newsflash, I had to go back to the root of the solution. And I believe the root of every solution lies in the unseen. And, it might sound crazy, but I like every private session I do, we always come up with sort of, if it's not the root, it's close to the root issue, which has nothing to do with the symptom, but everything to do with how you feel about yourself, what you think about yourself. And then what we do is we renegotiate the habits. But first, you have to renegotiate the feelings, the emotions, the thoughts, and the patterns so that when you renegotiate your habits, you're in heart and head alignment. And, something Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about. Identity is something that Tony Robbins talks about. Like, I have had lots of mentors throughout the years, and I feel so blessed and honored to learn from people all over the world. And then I take their information and I translate it into what makes sense to me from an energetic perspective. I'm always looking at the energy of things. So if the house isn't selling, I look at the energy of why it's not selling. I don't look at, oh, it's because of the price. It's usually because there's an unseen thing, or there was a traumatic event that happened, right? I had a client a few years ago who moved into a new apartment in New York City, and he all of a sudden was struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts and having anxiety and wanting to get some answers. And we did a phone session, and I was like, was there a murder or a death in your apartment before you moved in? And he was like, yes. And I was like, I think it was a couple, and I think they killed themselves. And that's actually what had happened. We cleared the energy of the unseen, right? These two people were hanging out in the corner of his bedroom. No wonder why he couldn't sleep in peace. And so this happens to a lot of people. And I feel fortunate enough to go into, business contracts and legal contracts and homes. And, like when we're dealing with health stuff or anxiety or depression, it's almost always an unseen issue. And I happen to be able, not all the time, but a lot of the time, able to go in and see what no one else can see. And then I translate it, we change the energy, and guess what? Things happen. And I can't tell you the amount of times I'm able to do this. And every day it humbles me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. And so if you're listening to this, I want to invite you to consider that if you are struggling with your health, with your body image, with chronic fatigue, right? If you are struggling, it's probably because there is an unseen problem going on, and we need to provide an unseen, intangible solution, right? So it's the solution isn't in a diet or a pill. Now, I'm not saying that that won't help because it probably will, but you have to get your heart and your head, right? Your heart and your brain in alignment with each other. The mind has to be congruent with the heart in order for you to be able to take action that resonates with the truth of the solution, right? And so some of you might be listening and being like, girl, you're speaking a foreign language. I'm like, I know. Welcome to my world. Sometimes I feel like I am speaking a foreign language, but it's the language we all know. We just don't always have words for. It's the language of energy. And the language of energy is something we were all born with. One of the things that I love to do, it's my favorite thing, is to go into like to travel around the world. And when I'm traveling around the world, right? When I'm traveling around the world, I love going to places where I don't speak that language. And people are always like, how do you go and travel and get by and figure it out when you don't speak the language? I'm like, I speak energy. And a smile is universal. A frown is universal. Laughter is universal. Pointing to an object is universal. Asking for a toilet is pretty universal, right? And so I'm always able to get by because I love and live in the world of energy. It's what people pay me to do for them, not because I need to be right, but because I'm able to translate those unseen things. And so I just got done with a session today and was able to translate some information for somebody on the other side of the world that was so grateful because it's going to shift a lot of things in her life and her family's life. And so when it comes to your body, to your weight, to the pain, to the migraines, to the discomfort, to the anxiety, to the depression, right? To the hormone imbalances, to the nervous system dysregulation, and to the cortisol increases in your body, when it comes to that, the way to solve it is to go underneath the surface into the unseen. And there are some things that you can do right away today, which I will share after the break what you can do, right? And I also have what coming up at the end of this month, a 5-day body challenge, right? People pay me a lot of money to do private sessions with them. And I wanted to offer something, a challenge for 5 days to people who want a taste of having an aha or a transformation when it comes to their health and their body, and have it happen in 5 days. And I've done this challenge and versions of a challenge for the last decade. And people come to these little experiences and they go, oh my God, I had no idea that much could change in 5 days. And here's the truth is the change isn't in the actions. The change is in your thoughts. The change is in your vagus nerve in your head. The change is in whether or not you're stuck in chronic fight or flight. Because when you are in survival mode and you're trying to go on a diet, or you're trying to alleviate the chronic pain you've been experiencing for lifetimes, you can't solve an issue when your body is in survival mode, right? You can't come to an intuitive solution when you are stuck in survival mode. The only thing you can do, right, when you're in survival mode, your cortisol levels are increased, your metabolism shuts down, your intuition isn't as clear, right? Your cortisol levels are taxed. There's all these things going on inside our body that prevent us. We might be on the right track with our actions, but we're not on the right track with our mind and with our head, and getting our heart and our head on the same plane, right? Yeah. And so for those of you, right, Exactly. So someone's saying in the comments, that's why people lose weight, regain it over and over. There's more to the process. Exactly. And I walk people through this process. Obviously in 5 days, you might not get all the information, but this challenge is pretty fantastic. I sort of combine, neuroscience and brain chemistry and somatic psychology and shamanism and the unseen, invisible world of energy in order to create an experience where you get to have the ahas for your own solution. And when you realize that inside of you is the solution you've always been looking for, it's not outside of you, it's inside of you, then you finally know what it's like to experience true freedom. And true freedom comes when you are connected to your mind, to your heart, to your body, to your spirit, to your soul, and you know that you are the solution. You are the answer. And inside of you is the answer to everything. It's the answer to money. It's the answer to freedom. It's the answer to your health. It's the answer to your financial abundance, right? And it's the answer to your relationships and the intimacy you crave. Because if you reject you, if you think something's wrong with you, which is a form of rejection, if you judge you, which is a form of rejection, if you think you're not enough, which is a form of rejection, if you are carrying in your field a form of rejecting you, it is almost impossible to allow yourself to have long lasting change in any area of your life. What you got to do is you got to stop rejecting you. And how do you stop rejecting you? Is by doing some practical things that help you align your head and your heart, right? I live in Aspen, Colorado. And I currently, and for the last 3, 4 months, have been doing this yoga class with a yoga teacher who is absolutely incredible at O2 in Aspen, right? So if you're ever there, come to Coco Rojas's classes because he's talking about this. It's something I talk about. And I said to him, thank you, because you're providing a space that I provide for others. And now I get to be the student in your classes, and I love it. And it's helping get my head and my heart congruent, getting my head and my heart on the same plane. And when it is, guess what? Life transforms as if by magic. And so the true key to changing your body lies in your vagus nerve. It lies in your head, lies in your reptilian brain, lies in your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And when you change your parasympathetic nervous system, right, you change your digestion and your gut health. And so for those of you that deal with digestive issues, taking a pill to change your digestive issues without changing your parasympathetic nervous system is not going to last long term. So you become dependent on whatever it is you're doing to regulate your digestion. If it's like in pill form, right? You want to address underneath the surface. So we are going to come back from break and I'm going to give you some practical tools that you can start doing now. But I would invite you all to check out the 5-day challenge that starts January 29th. You can find it on my social media, but the best way to do it is to go straight to my website at catherinemcintosh.com. Check it out. We've also got a bunch of other classes that are coming up in February, a 3-day online live event called Don't Diet, Be Happy, which is all about finding that congruency in your head and your heart so you can change your body. Because it isn't about a diet, my friends. It's about getting energetically aligned with falling in love with you again. And when you fall in love with you, your health will transform. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere because we're going to give you some really good things that you can start implementing today to begin to transform not only your health, but really anything in your life. So we'll be back.
Om Times TV.
Do you trust you? Do you trust your body? What if the key to unlocking the weight, pain, suffering, fear, anxiety, addictions, traumas, and sorrows was already inside of you? Learn to love the skin you are in so you can create the body, business, and life you love. Everyone always says you can't explain what Catherine does, you just have to experience it. From Hollywood actors to New York Times best-selling authors to some of the world's wealthiest and most successful, no two experiences are the same. For private sessions, online courses, live events, and the latest book Jack Canfield calls Game Changer and should be required reading for everyone, go to katherinemcintosh.com. KatherineMcintosh.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
All right, so we're back from break, and I'm so excited to be talking about this topic because it is so near and dear to my heart. And one of the reasons it's so near and dear to my heart, body health, body weight, body, image, loving the skin you're in, is because I know what it's like to spend 20 years, 20 plus years, probably more like 30 years of my life hating my body. Right? People would compliment me all the time. I'd get in fights with my son's dad, who was my husband at one point in my life, and he'd be like, "You have so many people compliment you all the time." I'm like, "No, I don't." I have friends who are like, "You always have people hitting on you." I'm like, "No, I don't." Right? Because my brain did not match what my body was. And so I created a lifelong internal struggle, right? And it was very costly on a lot of different levels. And it made me make bad life choices. It made me make bad relationship choices. When I suffered from zero self-esteem, it was a very interesting ride. And so I know what it's like to go from hating myself, constantly on a diet, constantly worrying about what I look like, constantly obsessing about, the size of my thighs, constantly obsessing about how many calories I burned. I know what that life is like. I lived that life for a really long time, but I now know, knowing what I know and knowing what I've changed and transformed and implemented in my life, I know what it's like to have freedom. I know what it's like to love the skin I'm in. I know what it's like when I feel off balance and my eating gets a little out of whack, or my sort of opinion about my body gets a little out of whack. I know what it's like, and I can change it quickly. And so I never thought that I would love myself. I never thought that I could have freedom in my body. And I'm sort of obsessed with this topic because I know that it plagues a giant number of women all over the world. It also plagues a lot of men. Men just don't talk about it as much. And men are kind of able to compartmentalize and they don't go into it as much as women do. But I've watched my own drop dead gorgeous friends ruin their lives because they didn't think that they were beautiful. And so I kind of am on a mission to just share my story, but also share solutions that I encounter along the way. Now, what worked for me in my 30s does not work for me in my 40s because menopause also changed the game. And so I really think it's so important for all of us to really look at, am I coming from a place of love when I'm looking for a solution to a problem I haven't yet been able to solve? And as if you are coming, so we're going to get into some practical tools that you can do, right? In this idea of the key to transforming your body. The key to transforming your body is in changing your mind, is in changing your identity and how you see yourself. So here are some sort of practical steps. They don't have to be in order. I'm just going to kind of share them as we go. The first one is to adopt an attitude and an identity of no judgment, right? So I created this program years ago called the No Judgment Diet. And it's this idea that if you can not judge you, so imagine, just create a scenario. Imagine that you are deciding to change your health habits. So you want to eat more, leafy greens, more plant-based foods. Maybe you want to eliminate the sugar. Maybe you want to cut back on your alcohol consumption. Maybe you want to add in drinking more water, right? Maybe you want to add in more green juices. Doesn't matter, but you have this pull to want to sort of change some habits. Awesome. Imagine for a second you feel like, oh, I'd like to get a little healthier. Maybe I'd like to get a little more toned. Maybe I want to lose 20 pounds, right? Something that you're thinking. And you're like, I need to lose weight. I need to lose weight. I'm fat and ugly, or I am too thick, or whatever it is that's in your world. And you start eating salads and soups and more plant-based foods. Maybe you adopt a more vegetarian diet. Maybe you eliminate, the excess, bacon and red meat. Like, I'm all for eating whatever is congruent and in alignment with your energy at the moment. There's been times where I've lost weight eating bacon, eggs, and cheese, and ice cream, and hamburgers. And then there's been times where my body changed because it was time to go more plant-based, right? I'm currently in a more plant-based phase of my life, and it seems to be working really well, and it's helping with my hormone health, which is really important to me right now. And so if you're trying to change your health habits and maybe you want to go on a diet, right? Whatever it is for you, but in your head, you're thinking, I'm not enough. I'm fat and ugly. It's impossible to lose weight. I never get it right. I don't know the solution. Do you think that your head and your heart are congruent when you're eating your greens or your vegetables or your salads or, your broccoli or your salmon? No. And so the body, when you're in conflict with your head and your heart, with your head and your body, and your actions are not matching your thoughts, you cannot create the results you're looking to create. And so the first step is to adopt an attitude of, I'm going on a no judgment diet, which means no matter what, I'm not going to judge me. I'm not going to judge my body. I'm not going to judge my weight. I'm not going to judge my age. And I'm certainly not going to judge what I'm eating, because in this culture, we've gotten accustomed to saying, oh, that's a bad food. Oh, that's a good food. Oh, that's a healthy food. Oh, that's a not healthy food. But the truth is, every food can be beneficial to you depending on how you live your life, depending on your thoughts, right? And, it also depends on your phase of life, on your phase of hormones, on your phase of your joy. Are you in a winter season where you're going through a tough time? Might not be time to be overly strict with yourself, right? Or maybe it's time to be a little bit more diligent so you don't fall into a giant slump or a depression. Right. But the biggest key is this idea of a no judgment diet. No matter what, you're not going to judge you. You're not going to judge your food intake. You're not going to judge, how much or how little you're exercising, because that literally can change a whole lot of things. Now, I used to have the belief that I had to exercise extremely hard for at least 2 hours a day and eat extremely clean in order to be fit. What I'm finding in my late 40s is that actually being gentle on myself, meditating, not working out so hard, not stressing out my cortisol and my hormones is proving to be much more beneficial in this phase of life. And so when you adopt an identity and a sort of belief of, I am going to go on a no judgment diet, which means I don't judge me, I don't judge my body, I don't judge food, and I'm going to then tap into my intuition, right? When I think about eating a cheeseburger, does it expand my universe or does it contract my universe? My favorite question to ask, which also is part of this no judgment diet, is, will I be happier afterwards? If I eat this, will I be happier afterwards? If I go to dinner with these people, will I be happier afterwards? If I say yes to a business meeting, will I be happier afterwards? Right? It's a way to sort of give your body permission to have an energetic conversation with you. So you want to include your body in the conversation. You are not the dictator of your body. Because if you are, chances are you don't have a great relationship with you or falling in love with you and your body. And we want to get you to a place, if you would like, if you are like, oh, this is interesting, get you to a place where you are in alignment, right? And so it's asking these sort of open-ended, expansive questions, right? Any question that leaves the door open, right, is a much better question than a black or white question. So yes or no. Should I eat this? Yes or no. That's not really an invitation, right? Right? It doesn't leave the door open for different possibilities, for different energies, for different invitations, and for different solutions. So, number one, adopt a attitude of a no judgment diet. Number two, right, is to do anything you can to decrease your cortisol levels and to get yourself out of fight or flight. Because when your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems are taxed, it shuts down your metabolism. It shuts down the high functioning organs interacting with each other, right? It slows the processes down because there's only one thing that your body's thinking, which is run or survive. But let's say you're sitting at your computer and your brain's like, run, you're not safe, but you actually are safe. It's hard for your body to digest food. It's hard for your body to organize its blood and its muscles appropriately. Like, there's all these things that happen. And so I invite people to research what would work for them, how to lower their cortisol levels. So a couple of things that actually work. Meditation is a great one, getting your heart and your head in alignment. Joe Dispenza is a great person to check out. He's got some great meditations. You can go on his website, you can go on YouTube, right? But one of the things that I've found for me in this phase of my life is somatic exercises. So I went to grad school for somatic psychology, and I actually have a free download on my website called Healing Your Nervous System. And there's a little 4-minute somatic exercise video that's included if you go onto my website, put in your name and your email, and you can get this free download. And literally, the 3 exercises that I do in the video, if you do those 3 exercises for the next 30 days, I promise you, you will see and experience a difference in your world. And so somatic exercises are incredible, right? I'm also doing this 5-day body challenge starting at the end of January. January 29th to February 2nd, 5-day challenge. And we are going to do some extensive work with our vagus nerve, with somatic exercises, with healing the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, and getting your cortisol levels lowered, right? And your energy. And there's a whole bunch of things that, I share in that 5-day challenge. And the best part about it is that you get the challenge for life. So you'll have access to the recordings for life. You'll have access to everything that's in that course for life for a pretty nominal amount. And I can guarantee you, if you're someone who struggled with your body, you've probably spent a lot of money on solutions that weren't actually permanent, that didn't address the unseen. And in this course, we're going to address those unseen energies. So finding ways to heal your sympathetic, parasympathetic, and finding ways to lower your cortisol levels and get you out of fight or flight. So somatic exercises, I've got this one on my website. Go ahead and download it. It's katherinemcintosh.com, and it should be sort of at the top third of my website, as well as a banner for the 5-day challenge, which you all are welcome to join. You're also welcome to do it with your friends. It's fun if you share the link, right? And say, hey, you want to do this challenge with me? I have families do it. I have siblings do it, and sisters, and, moms and daughters, because the reality is we've been trained ourselves to look for problems instead of in training ourselves to look for solutions. Some of the best entrepreneurs and business owners in the world, they look for solutions instead of looking at the problem, right? So the next thing you can do, so you've got taking yourself on a no judgment diet, don't judge anything, right? To lower your cortisol levels, to get yourself out of chronic fight or flight, right? And this one is kind of a fun one for me, is to ask this question of what can I add to my life? So if I want to get healthier, what can I add? Ooh, I can add in spending time with people who love their bodies. I can add in drinking more water. I can add in more greens or more plant-based foods. I can add in getting more vitamin D, right? I can add in more sunshine or spending time in nature, right? When we can put ourselves in places where we don't judge ourselves, that is something you can add to your life. And so there's all of these possibilities available to you if you begin to recognize, where are you in conflict with you? You say, right? I work with people and I say, okay, you say you want to buy a house, but you're not saving any money and you keep spending money on these things. You're not congruent, right? There's a conflict there. And so for anything that you aren't able to change easily and long-term in your life, it's because there is a conflict, and you want to look at what's the conflict, right? I say I want to lose weight, but I'm eating whatever I want whenever I want it. right? I say I want to be skinny, but actually my body wants to be strong. I had someone years ago who realized she kept wanting to lose weight, and the message she was sending, the molecules of water in the cells of her body was, I want to lose weight. And her body was like, we don't want to lose weight. We want to be strong. So she shifted her mindset to, oh, my body wants to be strong. And in that lost 15 pounds. Right? So the key to changing your body literally lies in your head. And it's these tiny little tricks to get you out of conflict, right? And into congruency. And if you're at a phase of your life where you want to commit to a long-term solution, not a short-term solution, because that's not a solution. That's just looking for another problem to solve, right? Long-term solution, I highly recommend and invite you check out my 5-day body challenge. It's the Breakthrough Body Challenge because it's designed to give you your own personal breakthrough. This isn't a do this, then do this, then do this. This is, hey, you know more about your body than I do, but I will translate certain unseen energies that you might not be aware of. Like I was not aware that my grandmother was in my body until I was 35, 36, 37 years old. When I realized that for 20 years, the 20 years that I struggled and suffered, right, thinking I was fat and ugly, struggled and suffered with my body, lost and gained over 2,500 pounds in 20 years. That's insane to me. Insane to me, right? That's almost over 100 pounds a year and then some certain years, right? I've been 96 pounds. I've been 165 pounds, not including my pregnancy. And never in the course of the 96 to the 165 did I like my body. Never. There was, I thought it was about the weight. It was the mental. So the biggest thing to look at is, where are you in conflict with the messages you're sending yourself? Because my friends, it is time to wake up to the best version of you. And the best version of you, no matter what size, like an elephant, you don't hear an elephant complaining about its weight, saying it needs to go on a diet. Elephants eat grass. So I say this all the time. It's never about the food, just the food. Yes, food can matter. I have been eating more plant-based for the last better part of a year, right? And I've noticed a difference. I've noticed a difference in my hormone health. I've noticed a difference in my mental health. I've noticed a difference in my skin health. I've noticed a difference in my physical body and how it's showing up. And so food does matter, but food isn't the only source or solution if you're struggling. Just like pain meds and a doctor might not be the only solution if you're struggling with a dis-ease that you haven't yet been able to have relief from. So, my friends, this is about the unseen, the unspoken, getting underneath the surface and getting really curious. And if you reject you, it'll be really hard for you to create long-lasting change. So you might want to start with, wow, where are all the areas of my life I'm rejecting me? And then what's the solution? To accept me, to love me, to throw gratitude my way, right? And so the last thing that you can do, and there's so many, and we're going to cover these in the challenge if you care to join, but the last thing is to find gratitude for what is working in your life instead of being so focused on what isn't. So what about your body is working? You're alive, you're still waking up, you're still here, you're getting out of bed, right? What is working, and focus on that and have gratitude for that. Because when you have gratitude for your body, guess what? Things start to change. So if you want more, check out the 5-day challenge, download the free, nervous system guide that's on my website. And I just want to thank you for being here. So we have a new time and day every every week, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central European Time. Thank you for joining me. As always, thank you for your contributions in the chat, and I look forward to seeing you next week. If this show sparked something in you and you know someone who could use a listen to, please share this with anyone you know. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Catherine is not a medical practitioner nor a licensed therapist. She has strong opinions and will express them, and truly believes that you are your best advocate for any and every area of your life. If you need medical advice, please consult your physician.